The Woman by the River. This is a true story. It happened to me and three of my closest friends on a winter night in rural Puebla, Mexico. Four friends crossed a bridge. A woman appeared beneath the moonlight, so beautiful she could not possibly be human. And when she turned around to face us, three of us wished we had died right there instead of having to see what we saw. Because what we witnessed that night did not leave us. It never left us. It never will. My name is Raul Castillo. I was 22 years old when this happened, working on my family's corn farm on the outskirts of Puebla. My life was simple back then. Wake up at 5 in the morning, work until the sun disappeared behind the mountains, and on weekends go out with my friends to forget how hard everything was. I had three friends I had known since childhood. We grew up together, played together, got into trouble together. I thought nothing in the world could ever separate us. I was wrong. Hector Morales was 23, the oldest in our group. He was the kind of man who lived hard, drank harder, and loved with everything he had until it destroyed him. 3 weeks before that night, his girlfriend had left him for someone with a better job in the city, and Hector had been drowning himself in mezcal ever since. Every night he would show up at my door with a bottle and bloodshot eyes, saying he just needed company. But what he really needed was to forget. And alcohol was the only thing that helped him forget, even if it was killing him slowly. That night, Hector was so drunk he could barely walk straight, but he insisted on going home instead of staying at the party. He said his mother was waiting. He said he had promised her he would be back. He lied to himself about a lot of things back then. We all did. Beto was 21. His full name was Roberto Jimenez, but nobody called him that except his grandmother when she was angry. Beto was quiet when sober, the kind of person who watched more than he spoke, who noticed things others missed. But when he drank, something else came out, something reckless, something that did not care about consequences. Beto and Hector were inseparable. Where one went, the other followed. They had been that way since we were children, and nothing had changed in all the years I had known them. If Hector said they were walking home through the darkness at 2 in the morning, Beto would not argue. He would just follow. That was the problem with loyalty. Sometimes it leads you off a cliff. Diego Fuentes was 20, the youngest of us. He was different from the rest of us in ways we did not fully appreciate until it was too late. Diego believed in things. He believed in the stories his grandmother told him about spirits that wandered the roads at night. He believed in the old warnings about rivers and crossroads and the spaces between midnight and dawn where the world grew thin. We used to laugh at him for it. We called him superstitious. We called him a child who had not grown out of fairy tales. He was the only one of us who understood what we were walking into that night. And me, I was Raul. I was somewhere in the middle of everything. Not as reckless as Hector, not as quiet as Beto, not as careful as Diego. I was just trying to survive. My father had been sick for months. The crops had failed that year, and I had taken a second job at a packaging factory on a night shift just to keep food on the table. The exhaustion had seeped into my bones, into my thoughts, into the way I saw the world. That night was one of the rare nights I did not have to work, so I drank more than I should have. Not enough to lose control, but enough to dull the edges of everything, enough to make bad decisions seem reasonable. That was my weakness. That was the crack in my armor. And something out there in the darkness knew exactly how to exploit it. The party was at the ranch of Sebastian Delgado, one of the wealthier landowners in the region. His daughter was turning 18, and he had invited half the county to celebrate. The ranch was about 5 kilometers from our village, connected by a dirt road that wound through cornfields and orchards before crossing the old stone bridge over the Atoyac River. The bridge had been there for as long as anyone could remember. Some said it was built during the colonial period when Spanish conquistadors forced the indigenous people to construct roads across the land they had stolen. Others said it was older than that, built on top of something that had existed before anyone kept records. The stones were worn smooth by centuries of feet and wheels and rain, and at night, under the right light, they looked almost like bones. Everyone in the region knew the bridge, and everyone knew the rule about it. Do not cross after midnight. Do not look down at the water when the moon is full. Do not answer if someone calls your name from below. These were the things old women whispered to children to keep them from wandering too far from home. These were the stories we grew up hearing and then forgot as we got older and decided we were too smart to believe in such things. We remembered them that night, but by then it was too late. The party started at 8 in the evening. Grilled meat, mezcal passed around in clay cups, a mariachi band playing songs about love and loss and death, because in Mexico those three things are never far apart. Girls in colorful dresses spinning on the dance floor, lanterns strung between the trees, casting everything in warm golden light. For a few hours I forgot about my father's illness. I forgot about the bills piling up. I forgot about everything except the music and the laughter and the way Maria Delgado smiled at me when I asked her to dance. Hector was drunk by 10. Beto followed by 11. Diego, as always, nursed a single beer the entire night and watched us with those careful eyes of his. The party ended around 2 in the morning. Sebastian offered to let us stay. He had spare rooms, he said. The road was dark and the night was strange. He looked up at the sky when he said that last part at the full moon hanging overhead like a giant white eye. Full moon tonight, he said. My grandmother always said full moons bring out things that should stay hidden. Diego wanted to stay. I saw it in his face and the way his hands tightened around his beer bottle. But Hector refused. My mother is waiting, he slurred. I promised. I always keep my promises. He did not keep promises. He had broken 100 promises in his life. But that night, for some reason, he was determined to walk home through 5 kilometers of darkness. Beto agreed immediately, because Beto always agreed with Hector. I looked at Diego. He shook his head slightly, a tiny movement that only I caught. I should have listened to him. Instead, I said we would all go together. Safety in numbers, I told myself. And besides, it was just 5 kilometers. What could possibly happen in 5 kilometers? Everything. Everything could happen. We left the ranch at 2:15 in the morning. The moment we stepped off the property, the world changed. The warmth of the party disappeared like it had never existed. The air turned cold, not the normal cold of a winter night in Puebla where the temperature drops, but your body adjusts. This was something else, something deeper, the kind of cold that seeps into your bones and makes your joints ache, the kind of cold that feels intentional, like someone turned down a thermostat just for you. I could see my breath forming white clouds in front of my face. 5 minutes ago at the party, I had taken off my jacket because I was too warm. Do you feel that Diego whispered beside me? Feel what? The cold. It is not natural. I wanted to dismiss him. I wanted to tell him he was being paranoid again, that he had spent too many nights listening to his grandmother's stories. But I felt it too. Something was wrong. It is just the wind from the river, I said. The Atoyac is close. Cold water creates cold air. Diego did not respond. He just pulled his collar up higher and walked faster. Hector and Beto stumbled ahead of us, arms around each other's shoulders, singing fragments of a song from the party. Their voices echoed strangely in the darkness, bouncing off nothing and coming back distorted. The road was empty. No cars, no other travelers, no lights except the moon. We were completely alone. In Mexico, you learn to appreciate loneliness in certain doses, wide open spaces, empty fields stretching to the horizon, the silence of nature uninterrupted by machinery and traffic. But this was different. This loneliness felt aggressive. Like the darkness itself was pushing against us, trying to isolate us, trying to cut us off from everything we knew. My phone had no signal. I checked 3 times in the first 10 minutes, hoping to see even a single bar. Nothing. This region was notorious for dead zones, something about the mountains and the valleys blocking the signals. But I had walked this road dozens of times and always had at least some connection. Not that night. That night we were cut off from the world. About 15 minutes into the walk, I heard the first sound. Laughter. Not the laughter of my friends. This was something else. Distant, musical, like wind chimes made of broken glass, and beneath the laughter, a melody, someone whistling. A simple tune, sad and repetitive, the kind of song you might sing to a child to help them sleep. I stopped walking. Did you hear that Hector and Beto turned around, swaying slightly? Hear what Hector asked, the laughing, and someone whistling. Like there is someone out there. They listened. We all listened. Silence. Nothing but the sound of our own breathing and the distant chirping of insects. You are imagining things, Beto said. Too much mezcal. Or maybe someone from the party is walking behind us, Hector added. Let them catch up. Maybe it is one of the pretty girls. He laughed at his own joke. Beto laughed with him. I turned around and looked at the road behind us. Empty. Nothing but dirt and darkness and the faint shapes of cornstalks swaying in a breeze I could not feel. There is no one there, I said. But I heard something. I know I did. Diego grabbed my arm. His fingers were cold even through my sleeve. I heard it too, he said quietly. The whistling. It is how they call people. My grandmother told me. When you hear whistling at night, you are supposed to ignore it. You are supposed to keep walking and never look back. He did not answer. We kept walking. The cold got worse. My fingers went numb. My ears started to ache. Every breath felt like swallowing ice. And the sounds came back. The laughter. Closer now, the whistling, the same sad melody over and over. This time Hector heard it too. He stopped walking and turned around, squinting into the darkness. Who is there? He called out. Show yourself. No response. The whistling stopped mid-note, like someone had pressed pause on a recording. Probably just someone messing with us, Beto said. Some kid from the village playing a prank. At 3 a.m, Diego said, 5 kilometers from any house, in the middle of nowhere. Beto had no answer to that. We walked faster, and then we reached the bridge. The old stone bridge over the Atoyac River rose out of the darkness like something from a fever dream. The stones gleamed pale under the moonlight, and beyond it I could see the water shimmering like liquid silver. Beautiful, Beto said. Look at that. The moon on the water. Do not look, Diego said. Whatever you do, do not look down at the water. Why not? Just trust me. Cross quickly and do not look down. But Hector was already walking onto the bridge, and Beto followed, and I followed Beto. We were almost at the center when Hector leaned over the railing and looked down. Holy Mother of God! he whispered. "Do you see that I did not want to look? Something deep inside me, something older than reason, was screaming at me to keep walking, to not stop, to not look down no matter what. But I looked, and I saw her. She was standing in the river. The water came up to her ankles, but she did not seem to notice the cold. She wore white dress, thin as paper, clinging to her body in ways that made my mouth go dry. Her hair was black and long, falling past her waist, shining like raven wings under the moonlight. She was facing away from us, looking down at the water as if searching for something beneath the surface. And she was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. "Who is that?" Beto breathed. I heard myself answer, "Maybe a local woman bathing at night. Some people like to swim in the river after dark." But even as the words left my mouth, I knew they were lies, because the water in the Atoyac was freezing, cold enough to cause hypothermia in minutes, and she was standing in it without shivering, without a single goosebump on her pale, perfect skin, without any reaction at all, as if the cold did not exist for her, as if she was not entirely there. Diego grabbed my shoulder so hard it hurt. "She has no shadow," he hissed. "Look at the water. Look at the moonlight. Everything casts a shadow except her." I looked. He was right. The stones on the riverbank had shadows. The trees on the far side had shadows. My friend standing next to me had shadows stretching across the bridge. But the woman stood directly in the moonlight, and the water beneath her reflected nothing. Nothing at all. And then she raised her head, and she turned around. And she looked directly at us. Her eyes caught the moonlight and glowed, not reflected light. Something from within, like embers burning in the back of her skull. She smiled, a smile so beautiful it made my chest ache, and she lifted her hand, those long, pale fingers, beckoning us down. "Come to me." The voice was not out loud. It was inside my head, sweet and soft, like a mother calling her children home for dinner. "Come to me. I have been waiting for you. I have been waiting so long." There is a rule the old people of Puebla pass down to their children, and their children pass down to theirs. It has been this way for as long as anyone can remember, whispered in kitchens and around fires, and in the quiet moments before sleep. Do not look at the river after midnight. Do not answer when something calls your name from the water. And if you see a beautiful woman standing where no woman should be, run. Run, and do not look back. We did not know that rule. Or rather, we knew it the way you know fairy tales. Stories to frighten children, superstitions from a time before electricity and education and the modern world that explained away all the shadows. We thought we were smarter than the old stories. We thought wrong. The woman stood in the river with her hand raised, those pale fingers curling in a gesture that was unmistakably invitation. The moonlight fell on her like she was the only thing in the world worth illuminating. Everything else seemed dim by comparison. The bridge, the trees, my friend standing beside me, all of it faded into gray. Nothing, while she remained vivid and sharp and impossible to look away from. "Come to me," the voice said again inside my head. Soft, sweet, the voice of every dream I had ever had about being wanted. I have been waiting. Hector moved first. He pushed away from the railing and started walking toward the end of the bridge, toward the path that led down to the river bank. His movements were strange, not the stumbling of a drunk man any more. Something smoother, more purposeful, like a puppet being guided by invisible strings. "Hector," I called out, "what are you doing?" He did not answer. He did not even turn around. He just kept walking, his eyes fixed on the woman below. Diego grabbed my arm, his fingernails digging into my skin hard enough to leave marks. Do not let him go down there, Diego said. His voice was shaking. I had never heard Diego sound afraid before. Nervous, yes. Cautious, always. But this was different. This was terror. If he goes down there, he will not come back up. Hector, stop. But Hector was already at the end of the bridge, already starting down the slope toward the water. The woman had not moved. She stood perfectly still, her hand still raised, her smile still fixed on her face like something painted there. I am going too, Beto said. His voice sounded wrong, flat, empty. Like someone had scooped out everything that made Beto who he was and left only a shell behind. Beto, no. We need to leave. Right now. All of us. He looked at me, and for a moment I saw something flicker in his eyes. Recognition, fear, the real Beto trapped somewhere inside, trying to claw his way back to the surface. Then it was gone. I have to go to her, he said. She is calling me. Can you not hear her? She sounds so sad. She sounds so lonely. I have to help her. He climbed over the railing before I could stop him, sliding down the slope in a shower of loose dirt and pebbles. I lunged for his arm and missed by inches. My fingers closed on empty air while Beto disappeared over the edge. We have to go after them, I said. No. Diego stepped in front of me, blocking my path to the railing. We have to leave, now, before she takes us too. Those are our friends down there. I cannot just abandon them. They are already gone, Raúl. Look at them. Look at the way they are moving. That is not Hector and Beto anymore. That is something else, something she put inside them. I looked down at the river. Hector and Beto were wading through the water toward the woman. The water that should have been freezing. The water that should have made them gasp and stumble and turn back. But they moved through it like it was nothing, like they could not feel it at all. And her faces, even from this distance, I could see their faces, blank, empty, slack, like masks made of flesh with nothing behind the eye holes. But there was something else, something wrong, something that made my stomach lurch. They were crying, tears streaming down their cheeks, catching the moonlight, leaving wet trails from their eyes to their chins. Crying without expression, without sound, without any of the things that usually accompany tears. And the tears were not clear. They were dark, too dark for normal tears. In the pale light, they looked almost black. No, not black, red. They were crying blood. Something cracked inside my chest. Some barrier I had built between myself and the impossible. I felt it shatter, and terror poured through the gap like water through a broken dam. What is she? I whispered. What is that thing La Llorona Diego said, the weeping woman? My grandmother told me the stories. She wanders rivers and lakes at night looking for victims. Some say she drowned her own children centuries ago and now takes others to replace them. Some say she is something older, something that was here before the Spanish came, before anyone came, a spirit of the water that feeds on the living. That is just a legend. Everything is just a legend until you see it with your own eyes. Down below, Hector and Beto had reached the woman. They stood before her like supplicants before a goddess head, slightly bowed bodies motionless. The woman had not moved since we first saw her, had not taken a single step, but somehow she seemed closer to them now, as if the space itself had compressed to bring them together. She lowered her raised hand and reached toward Hector's face. I made a decision. It was probably the wrong decision. Looking back now, knowing everything that happened afterward, I can say with certainty that it was wrong. The smart thing would have been to run, to get as far away as possible and find help. A priest, a curandero, someone who knew how to deal with things that should not exist. But Hector and Beto were my friends. We had grown up together, played together, bled together when we fell out of trees or crashed our bicycles or got into fights with older boys who thought they could push us around. We had shared secrets and dreams and the kind of bond that only forms when you have known someone since before you knew yourself. I could not leave them. Stay here, I told Diego. If I'm not back in 5 minutes, run, get to the village. Find help. Raul, please, do not do this. 5 minutes, then you run. I climbed over the railing before he could argue further. The slope down to the river was steeper than it looked. Loose dirt and rocks shifted under my feet, and I had to grab at roots and tufts of grass to keep from tumbling all the way down. My hands got scraped and torn. Small price to pay, small price if I could bring my friends back. I reached the bottom and stepped into the water. Cold. The word does not do justice to what I felt. This was not cold like winter air or cold like ice in a drink. This was cold like death. Cold like the inside of a grave. Cold like something that wanted to stop my heart and freeze the blood in my veins. My lungs seized. My legs went numb almost instantly. Every nerve in my body screamed at me to get out, to climb back up the bank, to run. But I kept going. The water was only knee-deep, but each step was agony. The cold climbed up my legs like living things with claws. My muscles cramped and spasmed. My teeth chattered so hard I thought they might shatter. "Hector," I gasped. "Beto, can you hear me?" They did not respond. They stood perhaps 3 meters away, their backs to me, facing the woman. I could see her clearly now, more clearly than I wanted to. She was tall as Hector, and Hector was the tallest among us. Her skin was white, not pale, not fair. White, the white of bone, the white of things that have never seen sunlight, the white of death. Her dress clung to her body, wet and translucent, leaving almost nothing to imagination. But there was nothing seductive about it now. It looked like a burial shroud, like something you would wrap a corpse in before lowering it into the earth. Her hair hung in thick ropes down her back, tangled and matted with things moving in it. Things I did not want to look at closely. Things that crawled and squirmed and burrowed. And the smell. At first, when I had looked down from the bridge, there had been a scent of flowers. Something sweet and intoxicating. The kind of perfume that makes you lean closer, breathe deeper, want more. That was gone now. What replaced it was the smell of rot, the smell of meat left too long in the sun, the smell of river water that has collected in stagnant pools, breeding things that thrive in decay, the smell of death so old it has become something else entirely. I gagged, choked, nearly vomited into the water, but I kept going. "Hector, Beto, look at me. Please, we need to leave." Nothing. They stood like statues, like mannequins in a store window, with their bloody tears still streaming and their faces still empty. I was close enough to touch them now, close enough to reach out and grab Hector's shoulder and shake him until whatever spell had taken hold of him broke. But something stopped me. The woman turned her head, not her whole body, just her head. A slow rotation that should have been impossible, that bent her neck at an angle no human neck should bend. I heard the bones creak and pop, heard the wet sound of tendons stretching beyond their limits. She looked at me, and I saw her face. It was still beautiful. That was the worst part. Even now, even up close, even with the smell of death filling my nostrils, and the cold, killing feeling in my legs, and every instinct screaming at me to run, her face was still beautiful. Perfect symmetry, flawless features, the kind of face artists spend their whole lives trying to capture and never quite succeed. But her eyes were wrong. They were not human eyes, not animal eyes, not any kind of eyes that belonged to anything that lived and breathed and walked the earth. They were holes, deep and black and endless, like looking into the night sky if someone had removed all the stars. And deep within that darkness, something glowed, something red, something that pulsed and flickered like embers in a dying fire. Those ember eyes fixed on me, and I felt her attention like a physical weight pressing down on my shoulders, trying to drive me to my knees. You came. The voice was inside my head again, louder now, closer. I could feel it echoing in my skull, bouncing off the inside of my bones. I knew you would come. The good ones always come. They cannot help themselves. They think they can save their friends. They think love is stronger than what I am. They're always wrong. I want to leave, I heard myself say. My voice sounded distant, weak, like someone else speaking from very far away. I want to take my friends and leave. Leave, the voice sounded amused. But you just arrived, and we have so much to discuss, so much to share. I have been waiting for you, Raoul. Waiting so long. She knew my name. I had not told her my name, had not spoken it aloud since we left the party, but she knew it anyway, knew it like she had always known it. Like my name had been written somewhere inside her for years, just waiting for the right moment to be spoken. How do you know my name? I know everything about you. I know you work at the factory on night shifts because your father is sick and the farm is failing. I know you love a girl named Maria, but have never told her because you think you are not good enough. I know you dream about leaving this place, going to the city, becoming someone else, someone better, someone who does not have to dig in the dirt for a living. The cold in my legs was spreading, climbing higher, my hips, my stomach, my chest. Not just cold anymore, numbness, like parts of me were going to sleep and might never wake up. I know the guilt you carry, she continued. The things you did not say to your father before he got sick. The times you resented him for keeping you tied to this place. The moments when you wished he would just die already so you could finally be free. Stop. I know your secrets, Raoul. All of them. The darkness you hide even from yourself. I know you better than you know yourself. And I know that deep down in the place you never look, you want what I am offering. What are you offering? She smiled. The smile was beautiful. Of course it was. Everything about her was beautiful, even the horror, even the wrongness, even the death. Beauty was her weapon. Beauty was how she hunted. Peace, she said. No more struggle, no more pain, no more waking up every morning to face another day of disappointment. Just silence, just rest, just me, holding you forever. Her hand reached toward my face. Those long fingers, pale as bone with nails that were too long, too sharp, too much like claws. All you have to do is let go. I wanted to. God help me. I wanted to. The cold had reached my heart now, and with it came a terrible weariness, a desire to just stop fighting, stop trying, stop caring. Let the water close over my head and the darkness take me, and finally find the peace that had always eluded me. What was I fighting for anyway? A failing farm, a sick father who might die regardless of how hard I worked. A girl who did not know I existed, a life that had never been anything but struggle. From the moment I was born, she was offering escape. She was offering an end. And suddenly standing there in water that should have killed me, facing something that should not exist, I understood why Hector and Beto had walked so willingly into her arms. Because she was right. Because somewhere inside all of us there is a voice that whispers about how tired we are, how pointless it all is, how much easier it would be to simply stop. She was that voice given form. She was every dark thought we have ever had about ourselves. She was beautiful because despair is beautiful when you have lived with it long enough. Her fingers touched my cheek, cold, so cold it burned. So cold I felt ice crystals forming in my skin, spreading outward from the point of contact like frost on a window. Yes, she breathed. That is it. Let go. I have you now. I closed my eyes and saw Maria, not the Maria who existed in the real world, the one I watched from across the plaza and never spoke to, but Maria as she could be. Maria smiling at me, Maria taking my hand, Maria telling me that it was not too late, that nothing was ever too late, that there was still so much to live for. My eyes snapped open. No. The word came from somewhere deep inside me, from some reserve of strength I did not know I possessed, from the part of me that had survived everything life had thrown at it and refused to give up now. No, I am not done yet. I slapped her hand away. The moment I touched her, something happened. A shock ran through my arm, not cold this time, but hot burning, like grabbing an electric fence. My muscles spasmed. My vision went white. I staggered backward, nearly falling, catching myself at the last moment. When my sight cleared, she was staring at me with those ember eyes, and she was not smiling any more. You refuse me. I have people who need me. They will die. Everything you love will die. Everything you hope for will turn to ash. In the end, you will come back to this river and beg me to take you? Maybe, but not tonight. Her face changed. The beauty was still there, but now it was twisted, corrupted, like looking at a perfect painting that someone had started to burn from the edges inward. Nobody refuses me, she said. Her voice was different now, layered, like 1,000 voices, speaking at once, some screaming, some whispering, some laughing. Nobody walks away from my river. Watch me. I turned toward Hector and Beto. They had not moved during my conversation with the thing, had not blinked, had not breathed as far as I could tell. They stood like dolls in the water, waiting to be played with. I grabbed Hector's arm. His skin was cold, cold as the water, cold as her touch. But beneath the cold, I could still feel his pulse, faint, slow. But there. Hector, we are leaving. Now. Nothing. No response, no recognition, just those blooded tears still streaming down his face. I shook him, slapped him, called his name over and over. Nothing. I cannot hear you, she said. She was behind me now. I had not seen her move, but I could feel her presence at my back, feel the cold radiating from her like heat from a furnace in reverse. They belong to me now, just like you will belong to me. Raul Diego's voice screaming from the bridge. Get out of there. Something is happening. Something is... His voice cut off. I looked up. Diego was standing at the railing, his face illuminated by the moonlight, his mouth open in horror. He was not looking at me. He was looking at the woman behind me. And his expression told me everything I needed to know. I spun around. And I watched her change. There are things the human mind is not built to witness, images that burn themselves into the brain like brands on cattle searing through memory and dream and waking thought until they become part of you, until you cannot remember a time before you saw them, until you begin to wonder if you were born with them already inside you, waiting for the right moment to surface. I know this because I carry such images. I've carried them for 20 years, and I will carry them until I die. The transformation began with her hair, that beautiful black hair that had shone like raven wings in the moonlight. It began to gray, not gradually, not strand by strand, but all at once, the color draining out like water from a tub. Black to gray, gray to white, white to something worse. the color of old newspapers, the color of abandoned things, the color of bones left to bleach in the sun. Her skin followed, the perfect porcelain complexion cracked. Fine lines appeared first like the surface of an old painting, then widened into fissures. Through the gaps I could see something dark beneath. Not blood, not muscle, something else, something black and wet and wrong. Her dress was rotten off her body, the white fabric turning gray, then brown, then falling away in strips to reveal what was underneath. I will not describe what was underneath. Some images do not belong in words. Some horror should not be given shape in language. What I saw beneath that dress will live in my nightmares until I die and maybe beyond, and I will not inflict it on anyone else. Enough to say it was not human. Enough to say it was not alive in any way that matters. Enough to say that looking at it made me truly understand for the first time, that there are things in this world that are older than humanity and will still be here long after we are gone. Her face was the last to change, and it was the worst. Because even as it transformed, even as the skin shriveled and the flesh fell away, and the skull beneath began to emerge, those eyes stayed the same. Those ember eyes burning in the darkness of empty sockets, watching me with something that might have been hunger or hatred or love. "Now you see me," she said. Her voice was a chorus of screams, now a symphony of agony. "Now you see what beauty really is, what all beauty becomes in the end." I ran. There was nothing else to do, no hero's choice, no noble last stand. Just animal instinct taking over, driving my frozen legs through the water, pushing me toward the bank, toward the slope, toward anything that was not here. Behind me, I heard laughter, not the musical laughter from before. This was something else. This was the sound of something ancient and terrible and patient, finding amusement in the struggles of prey that did not understand it was already caught. I hit the bank and scrambled up the slope, my fingers tearing at dirt and roots, my feet slipping, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might explode. Diego was there reaching down, grabbing my wrist, pulling me up the last few meters. "Hector and Beto," I gasped. "We have to get them. We have to look." He pointed at the river. I looked, and I saw something I will never unsee. The woman, the thing, the creature that had once worn beauty like a mask, was embracing my friends. Her arms, too long, now stretched impossibly, wrapped around Hector and Beto like a spider wrapping flies, and they were sinking into her, not being pulled, not being consumed, sinking like she was made of quicksand, like her body was a door, and they were being drawn through it into somewhere else. Hector's face turned toward me one last time. His mouth moved. No sound came out. But I could read the words on his lips. "Why did you leave us?" Then he was gone. They both were. Pulled into that nightmare body, swallowed by something that should not exist, taken to wherever she takes the ones she catches. The creature looked up at the bridge, at me, at Diego. "That was not all of you," she said. Her voice was a whisper now, but I heard it clearly carried on the night air like smoke. "There were 4. I will have the other 2. She smiled, that horrible, beautiful, broken smile. "You cannot run far enough," she said. "You cannot hide long enough. I have seen you now. I know your names. I know where you sleep. I know the faces you love. And when you close your eyes at night, I will be waiting. This is not over. This will never be over." Then she sank into the water, down, 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 until only her face remained, those ember eyes glowing just above the surface. And then she was gone, and the river was empty. And somewhere in the distance a rooster crowed, announcing a dawn that was still hours away. We ran, Diego and I ran like we had never run before, our feet pounding the dirt road, our lungs burning our hearts, threatening to explode. Behind us, the bridge grew smaller and smaller until it vanished into the darkness. But we did not stop. We did not slow down. We did not look back. The laughter followed us. It came from everywhere at once. From the cornfields on either side of the road, from somewhere above us in the empty sky, from inside our own heads, echoing and multiplying until it sounded like a crowd of people laughing at our pathetic attempts to escape. But we kept running. The road curved around a small hill, and for a moment Diego disappeared from view. Panic seized my chest, a terror so intense I nearly screamed his name. Then I rounded the curve myself and saw him still ahead of me, still running, still alive. That was when I fell. Something caught my foot, a rock, a rut in the road, my own exhausted legs finally giving out. One moment I was running, and the next I was falling, the ground rushing up to meet me with terrible speed. I hit hard. My palm scraped against dirt and gravel, the skin tearing. My knee struck a stone, sending a bolt of white-hot pain up my leg. My chin bounced off the road, and I tasted blood where I had bitten my tongue. For a moment I could not move, could not breathe, could not do anything but lie there in the dirt, stunned and hurting, and suddenly certain that this was where she would catch me. The laughter stopped. The silence that followed was worse than the sound had been. It pressed down on me like a physical weight, thick and heavy and suffocating. And underneath the silence, I heard footsteps, soft, measured, coming closer, not running, walking, taking its time. I forced my head up. She was standing in the road behind me. Not the beautiful woman from the river, not the elegant figure in the white dress with the raven-black hair. That mask was gone now. What stood there was something else entirely. She was taller than before, much taller. Her limbs had stretched elongated until they were too long for her body. Her arms hung past her knees, ending in hands that were more like claws with fingers that bent backward at the joints. Her legs were crooked at angles that should have made standing impossible, yet she stood perfectly still. Her dress had rotted away almost entirely, leaving only scraps of filthy fabric clinging to a body that was barely body at all. Bones showed through gaps in the flesh. Ribs jutted out like the bars of a cage. Patches of skin hung loose gray and mottled, sliding off in places to reveal the darkness beneath. And her face. The beautiful face was still there in a way. The structure remained, the high cheekbones, the delicate jaw, but the skin had pulled back from her skull, cracking and flaking around the edges. Her lips had shriveled into thin lines, pulled back to reveal teeth that were too long, too sharp, too numerous. Her nose was mostly gone, collapsed into a dark hole, and those ember eyes still burned. "You fell," she said. Her voice was layered now, dozens of voices speaking at once. "You fell, and now you cannot run any more." I pushed myself up onto my hands and knees. Pain shot through my palms, my knee, my everything, but I forced myself to move. "I can see your blood," she said. She took a step closer, those crooked legs carrying her forward with unnatural smoothness. I could smell it, so warm, so alive. "Stay away from me. Your friends are inside me now. I can feel them, still conscious, still aware. They will be aware for a very long time. Please." Please is such a beautiful word. I have heard it so many times. She reached down. Those impossible fingers wrapped around my throat, lifted me off the ground like I weighed nothing, brought my face close to hers. I could see into those ember eyes now, and in that darkness I saw faces, dozens of faces, maybe hundreds, pressing against some invisible barrier, mouths open in screams that made no sound. the people she had taken, including Hector and Beto. "You see them," she said. "I want you to know where you're going." Her grip tightened. I could not breathe. My vision started to darken. Raul Diego's voice cut through the darkness. He was running toward us, running back. He had realized I was not behind him, and he had turned around. She turned her head toward him. "Another one." "I remember you, the smart one." Diego skidded to a stop. "Let him go." "Why would I do that?" "Because if you take him, I will run. I will tell everyone what you are. I will bring priests and soldiers. I will burn this region to the ground." She laughed. "You think that frightens me? I was here before their gods were invented. Then what do you want? I want the pain, the fear, the despair. That is what sustains me." She squeezed tighter. I felt something in my throat start to give. And then Diego said something I did not expect. "Let him go, and I will stay." The words hung in the air. She tilted her head. "You would trade yourself for him?" "Yes. You know what I will do to you, I know." She was quiet for a moment. Then she laughed again. How touching, how human. She dropped me. I hit the ground hard, gasping for air, my throat on fire. She was walking toward Diego now, that horrible spider walk. Diego did not run. He stood there waiting for her. No, I tried to say, no run, but no sound came out. She was almost to him when I heard the dogs barking from the village. Then a light came on in the window, then another. My scream must have carried farther than I thought. She froze. Her head snapped toward the village. No, not yet. More dogs joined the chorus. More lights flickered on. The world was waking up, and she did not like it. "This is not over," she said, turning back to us. "You have bought yourself time. A few days, a few weeks, maybe years. But I will come for you. I will always come for you." She leaned close to me. "You belong to me now, Raul Castillo. You and your friend both. You have seen my true face. You carry my mark." Her claw traced a line down each of my forearms so fast I barely felt it. But the pain came a moment later, sharp and burning. "And when I finally take you, I will make sure you remember this moment. I will let you keep hope right up until the end, and then I will tear it away." She stepped back. "Until next time." And then she was gone. One moment she was there, and the next she was not. Dogs kept barking. The lights kept turning on. Diego ran to my side. "We need to get you to the village. You're bleeding." I looked down at my arms. 3 gashes ran across each forearm, deep and ragged. The edges of the wounds were tinged with black. She marked me. "I know." She said she would come back. I know. Diego helped me up, and we walked toward the village. The first person to reach us was old Sebastian. Mother of God. What happened? Where are Hector and Beto Diego? And I looked at each other. "There was an accident," Diego said. "At the river. They fell in. The current was too strong." Sebastian looked at my arms. "Those are not drowning wounds." I fell, running for help. He did not believe us, but he did not push. They searched the river for 3 days, found nothing, no bodies, no clothes, no sign that Hector and Beto had ever existed. The official report called it a drowning, a reasonable explanation, a comforting lie. The wounds on my arms healed slowly, too slowly. The edges stayed black for weeks. The flesh around them remained cold to the touch. Eventually they closed, but the scars remained. 3 pale lines on each forearm. When the weather turns cold, they ache. When I am afraid, they burn. When I dream of the river, I wake up clutching them. Her mark, her promise. After the funerals, Diego and I sat in the cemetery. "She will come for us," Diego said. "I know. Not tonight. Maybe not this year. But eventually." "What do we do?" "We live," I said. "We live as hard and as long as we can. And when she comes, we face her together. Diego nodded. Together. We sat there until sunrise. It felt like a blessing, a temporary reprieve. But I knew the darkness would return. It always does. 3 years later, Diego died. The doctors called it a stroke. Unusual for someone so young, but not unheard of. Stress, trauma. They found him in his bedroom, sitting in front of his mirror, his eyes wide open and his mouth frozen in a scream. I was the one who found him. The moment I saw his face, I knew this was not a stroke. This was her. On the mirror, someone had scratched words directly into the glass. One down, one left. I stood there staring at those words for a long time. She was counting. Hector, Beto, Diego. 3 gone, 1 remaining. Me. After Diego's funeral, I left Puebla. I told myself I was running towards something new, a better life. But the truth was simpler. I was running away. I moved to Mexico City, then Guadalajara, then Monterrey, then smaller towns, places without rivers, places far from water. It did not matter. She was always there, not physically, but there, in a corner of my eye when I looked in mirrors, in the laughter that came from empty rooms, in the dreams that woke me at 3 in the morning. I never married. How could I bring someone into my life knowing what was waiting? I lived alone, worked alone, slept alone. 17 years of solitude after Diego died. 20 years since that night at the river. 20 years of being the last one left. And then last night she came back. I am telling you this story on a Thursday afternoon. The sun is still up. The light is coming through my window. I can hear cars outside, people talking, the ordinary sounds of a world that does not believe in monsters. In a few hours that will change. In a few hours the sun will set, and I do not know if I will see it rise again. It started with a cold. I was sitting in my apartment watching television. The heating was on. The windows were closed. There was no reason for the temperature to drop, but it did, slowly at first, then cold enough to see my breath, cold enough that frost began forming on the inside of my windows. I turned off the television, sat in the silence, and I heard it, the whistling, that same sad melody from 20 years ago. It was coming from inside my apartment. I searched every room, nothing, but the whistling continued. Then the laughter started, soft, musical, coming from everywhere and nowhere. I ran to the bathroom, splashed water on my face, told myself I was imagining things. Then I looked in the mirror, and I saw her. Standing right behind me, beautiful again, that perfect face, that raven black hair, that white dress. She was smiling, and in her arms she was holding 2 figures, Hector and Beto. They looked exactly as they had on the night they died. Their mouths were open in silent screams. Their eyes were empty holes staring at me with something that might have been accusation. I spun around, nothing. But when I turned back to the mirror, there were words written in condensation. 2 down, 2 left. I stared at those words until they faded. I did not sleep. This morning there was something new on the mirror. A single word scratched into the glass itself. Tonight. That was 8 hours ago. The sun is starting to set now. So I am recording this. Putting it out into the world. So someone will know what happened. Because she is not just a legend. She is real. She is hungry. And she is patient. If you're listening to this, I need you to understand something. There are rules, old rules. Do not look at the river after midnight. Do not answer when something calls your name from the water. And if you see a beautiful woman standing where no woman should be, run, run, and do not look back, because if you look at her, she will see you. And if she sees you, she will remember you. And if she remembers you, she will never stop hunting. I can hear the whistling again. It is getting closer. The lights just flickered. The temperature is dropping. In the window, I can see something standing in a corner behind me. I am not going to turn around. I already know what I will see. So let me leave you with this. If you have listened to this story, if you have imagined her face, then she knows about you now, too. That is how it works. She does not just hunt the ones who see her directly. She hunts the ones who believe. You have thought about her now. You have pictured her in that river. Which means, tonight, when you go to sleep, when the lights are off and the darkness is thick, she might be thinking about you too. Sweet dreams. I hope you wake up. But if you hear whistling in the night, do not answer. Do not look. And whatever you do not go near the water. She is waiting. She is always waiting. And she is so very hungry. The lights just went out. I can hear her breathing behind me. I can smell the river. I can feel her hand on my shoulder. Cold. So cold. I am not going to scream. I am just going to say one last thing. Some stories are not meant to be told. Some doors once open can never be closed. You opened a door tonight. I'm sorry. It is too late now. For both of us. Goodbye. And remember, she is always list.